You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the resistance, on my fellow patriots. Wednesday, October 24th. Obviously, there's huge news going on. I'm Dean Obeidallah. I'm on Twitter at Dean Obeidallah, Facebook.com/Dean of Radio, where if you so choose, you can watch the monologue right now if you'd like to do that. The daily reminder, there are 13 days into the most important election of our lives. And it seems there are events every single day that make it more and more clear how important this election is going to be. And today was no different. And let me put it this way, and this might sound over the top, and I sincerely, if you think it is, tell me. But if you want to ensure we're going to have future elections, you've got to vote on November 6th. Because I am no longer confident what will happen in the future. Because if Donald Trump, and we know he is cut from the cloth of an authoritarian, and think about, what does an authoritarian do if there's terrorism? Suspend civil liberties, suspend elections. This is what they do. At some point, that'll occur to Trump. The question is, do people around him stop him or not? But I've said for over a year that November 6th, Election Day, is Judgment Day, and it never seemed more clear. It is our Judgment Day. It is so important for us all. As we all know, I'm sure everyone knows, the list of bombs today, number one media target was CNN. It was going to John Brennan, somebody that Donald Trump has demonized, both CNN and John Brennan. It went to Michelle and Barack Obama. It targeted Hillary and Bill Clinton. It targeted Congresswoman Maxine Waters, another Donald Trump target. And you know, a similar discovery yesterday, George Soros actually went to his mailbox, a bomb. Right as of now, all I've heard is the CNN bomb was a live one. I'm not sure if the others were or not. I just know the CNN one was a live one, and my understanding from just listening to the experts, like everyone else, that meant that actually was a bomb that could have gone off and killed people. And, you know, I go to CNN. I used to go to CNN all the time. I write for CNN Weekly, but I do it from home, so this is very close to home to hear this go on. And I'll tell you, in going to CNN the last 2 years, when I go on air, there are much more security there than there's ever been before, like actually in the newsroom security, because of what has gone on under Donald Trump. And here's New York Mayor de Blasio today on responding to the suspicious packages. His press conference. Here, clip number 3, please.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. What we saw here today was effort to terrorize. This clearly is an act of terror attempting to undermine our free press and leaders of this country through acts of violence. I want to make very clear that the people of New York City will not be intimidated, that we're going to go about our lives undeterred, because the very concept of terrorism is to change us, and we will not allow that to happen. You cannot be terrorized if you refuse to allow the terrorists to win. People of this city have shown time and again that they stand up in the face of these efforts to intimidate. And I want to thank the people of New York City for the way they're handling this situation today.
And I love the fact that Mayor de Blasio called it an act of terror right away. He didn't wait, didn't play games, didn't do the usual thing. We're going to see. If there's not a Muslim involved, then it can't be terrorism. No, there can be terrorism. We've seen a rise in right-wing terrorism. Just to remind people, last year, according to the ADL, there were 34 Americans killed on U.S. soil by right-wing, by extremists, all types of extremists. Of those 34, 18 were killed by right-wing extremists. We are lucky these bombs didn't go off. What we saw today, and I could be wrong, but if everything is the way we think it is, we saw today a coordinated terror attack, wave of terror, by someone who supports Donald Trump. And today was like a coordinated attack like 9/11. Obviously not in terms of death toll, but in terms of coordinated attacks going to different places. I mean, all of these envelopes reached the same day. This was very coordinated. And we'll find out. It could be one person. It could be a cell, a domestic terrorism cell. We have no idea. And I'm hoping that they're going to pursue it like they would an ISIS terrorist. Because I talked about this last week. I went to an event on extremism, countering violent extremism. And I made the case last week after that conference, and they didn't mention Trump, that Donald Trump connects with his voters and recruits them like an ISIS recruiter, like a Klan recruiter, in that he goes first at their grievance, second he appeals to their identity. In the case of the Klan, it's the white race, and in the case of ISIS, it's their faith. Donald Trump uses both faith and their white race. And third, he promises them a purpose for their life, to be part of something bigger than themselves, to be part of something that is great, like making America great again. And instead of a white hood and cheering white power, they're wearing a red hat and cheering lock her up. And that's how they're bonding. And whoever it turns out, if it turns out it was 5 right-wing Trump supporters, I know no one listening to this channel is going to respond with violence. And I say that sincerely. I'm not joking around. I know that sincerely. The right response, obviously, is not violence. It is ballots. It is not bombs. We are 13 days away from the most important election of our lives. We have a chance to change the course of this nation. And that is the response. And if there's certain states you can still register, there's certain states that you can vote right now. Get out there. Answer this drumbeat of terror by the right with our ballots. That's how we ultimately win it all. And we also ensure that we have votes in the future and able to do that. You know, Donald Trump today put out a statement. He actually made a statement. And first Mike Pence tweeted, but then Donald Trump comes out and makes his statement. And I've got to tell you, Donald Trump has 10 times more passion in his statements when he's demonizing Maxine Waters and demonizing CNN and demonizing NFL players and demonizing Hillary Clinton than he did in condemning this bombing. This is unreal. And today, he read a statement that someone else wrote for him, and he read it like he was reading an eye chart with that amount of passion. I'm not even kidding. I won't play because I want to hear his stupidity. Here's what he said. We have come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States. What a great sentiment. Threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America. Then Donald Trump, why don't you explain this to us? Here's clip number 1. Explain this, Donald Trump. There's no place for political violence in our nation. No clip? All right, so we have no clip, unfortunately, because it's a really good clip. It's loaded. All right. So it's Donald Trump at his rallies threatening violence over and over. And you got it? Okay.
Knock the crap out of him. Like to punch him in the face. Would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Don't worry about it. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily. We become weak. We become weak.
And you know what? The audience swung back. And I thought it was very, very appropriate. The audience hit back. And that's what we need a little bit more of.
That's what we need a little bit more of. Donald Trump just recently attacking the media at his events. On August 30th, he tweeted, "I just can't state strongly enough how totally dishonest much of the media is. Truth doesn't matter to them. Their only agenda is hatred. This includes fake books, which come out about me, always anonymous sources, enemy of the people." Here's the reality. If you take Donald Trump's words as face value, that the enemy of the people is the media, and you really, really believe that because you love Trump and you're a Trump supporter, the question is why. The question isn't why would you attack the media? The question is why wouldn't you attack the media? If you think the enemy of America is right here in our nation and they have offices in New York at Time Warner Center and in 30 Rock and around this nation, and if you truly believe Donald Trump, they're the enemy of the people, why would you not attack them? Of course you would. And that's where Donald Trump, let's not play a game. To me, Donald Trump is like an ISIS recruiter. Donald Trump is like a Klan recruiter. The difference is he's not directing them specifically what to do. That would make it a crime. He just radicalizes them, incites them, and lets them go And you heard on that tape over and over him saying, if you commit a crime, I will bail you out. I will help you. That last clip to me was the most stunning when he said people punch back, and that's what we need to see more of in this country. That's Donald Trump. It's not my words. That's his words. You know, the violence we saw today was not overnight. This has been percolating for a while. You know, as I said before in this show, I never had death threats in my life for articles I had written about politics, or about anything, to be honest, but about politics before Donald Trump ran for office. And I never sincerely feared for my own safety for articles I've written critical of Donald Trump for CNN and the Daily Beast, but especially for CNN, before Donald Trump ran for office and was elected. Every time I write articles for CNN, again this week, I get threats, not death threats, but things like, you're a cancer, we've got to cut out this country. Some have said they want to come up here and fight me, but they want to do it in a boxing ring and not make it illegal. So they're kind of thinking this through. That's now. As they get more desperate, forget that. They're just going to corner journalists, start beating them up. That's what Trump wants. Because if he doesn't want that, you don't say this stuff. There's no games playing. I don't need to be hyperbolic or provocative. I'm telling you the truth. I play Trump's words for you so you can hear over and over what he has done, how he's incited people. Just 6 weeks ago, folks, 6 weeks ago, Robert Chain, and we covered this on the show, was arrested. A man from California called the Boston Globe, a paper that was involved in organizing op-eds around the nation to criticize Donald Trump's attacks on the media. He called the Boston Globe between August 10th and 22nd numerous times, threatening to shoot the reporters in the head because of their treasonous and seditious attacks on Donald Trump. And he was arrested. Not in a vacuum. All of this really began, if you look back to, and I wish the media would do this, I hope they will go back and look at the history of violence that Donald Trump has incited since he ran for office. The very first incident that I can find, many of you will remember this, August 2015, a few months into the Trump campaign, two brothers in Boston assault a homeless Latino guy. And according to the police report, the defendants said this to the police. It was all in the police report. Donald Trump was right. All these illegals need to be deported. And they beat him up. That is where this began. August 2015. That is the first time a Trump supporter was radicalized to commit an act of violence. It's undisputed. He said it to the police. Since that time, we've seen a spike in hate crimes against blacks, Muslims, and Jews and gays. 2 years in a row. We've seen white supremacists, not just in Charlottesville, but these are Trump-supporting white supremacists like James Jackson come to New York and kill an African-American man in the hopes of starting a race war. He was arrested and charged with terrorism, got very little press, in Portland, Oregon last year. Another white supremacist who reportedly, like Trump, killed two people on a train. Again, as I mentioned earlier, last year, 34 Americans killed on U.S. soil by extremists. 18 by right-wing white supremacists. 8 by Islamic terrorists, and that was one incident. That was the guy driving his car in the horrific attack here in New York City in one incident. The 18 others by white supremacists span the nation. Mayor de Blasio today had a good point about the message to Trump and to others and about disagreeing, and that it's up to people like Trump to send the right message here. Let's hear clip number 5.
You talk about a founding principle of this country. This is a country, unlike probably any other in the world, that believed a free press was necessary to a functioning democracy. This was foundational to the documents that built this nation. And I think it's something the president needs to take to heart. Start sending a message of respect for people of different beliefs. If you want to disagree with someone, disagree with them politically, disagree at the ballot box, but never, ever threaten bodily harm. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people keying off the president and keying off other voices of hate. And there's results to that. There's a lot of impressionable people out there. There's a lot of people with mental challenges and other things that inspire them to act when they hear that kind of voice. There's a more responsible way. And by the way, Jake, for decades, you didn't see this kind of thing in this country because leaders set a tone of respect and civility. We can get back to it. We have to get back to it.
And that was Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York, being very, very measured. He was not being really partisan. He was acting like a leader there and saying, look, in the past, we did have more political violence. And the tone for this nation, and I keep making this point, is that a president's number one power is not to legislate. They really can't do that. They can lobby Congress to pass a bill. They can sign an executive order. The president's most immediate power is setting a tone in the nation. And if Donald Trump would have come out, and all he did is Mike Pence first tweeted it's horrible, and then he retweeted it, and then Trump gave at another already scheduled event at opioid signing of some BS legislation, because I'm sure he did nothing to help anyone. He made this little statement about, we can't have any of this. No, you should have had a press conference alone. But this is the same man who has defended white supremacists, who just told us he was a nationalist, who just last week, folks, praised in Montana a congressman who beat up a reporter and mimicked body slamming him. And we're going to sit here and have a discussion about, is Donald Trump radicalizing people to attack CNN? Of course, there's no discussion. He is doing that. And we can go through, and we will later, some of the right-wing responses, all false flag and all this garbage that's going on. It doesn't matter what they say. There's more of us than them. Let's show them that on election day. Let's make it clear that we don't need bombs. We don't need bullets. We have ballots, and we're going to win. And we can do it. We've got all the power. And to remind people, since 1992, Democrats have won the popular vote for president every single time, except once in 2004. But like this time, Donald Trump gets the ultimate participation trophy. He comes in second. A minority of America wants him as president, and yet he's president because of this ridiculous electoral college system. Well, they don't have that to save them in 13 days. It is a popular vote. And there's a big turnout going on. And in certain states right now, my friends, forget blue wave, forget any of that. Win. I don't care if we win by one seat in the House. We control every committee chair. We get subpoena power. We set the agenda. The Senate is tougher, but here's the thing. The governor's races are going beneath the surface right here. What's remarkable, right now, 32 governors are Republican. We are leading in countless states. When this election is over, if the polls hold up to be true, we could have picked up 5 or 6 governorships. We might be close to 50-50 in terms of governor. And that's actually more important in some way than anything else because of redistricting going on at the top of the decade. But governors have a lot of power. And it looks like we're going to win in Michigan, in Wisconsin. It's not guaranteed. We come out. Florida's looking good. New Mexico looks like it might go Democrat. There are various other states that are very, very competitive now that were not considered competitive. So let's do this. Let's win. Let's use our ballots to defeat their bombs and their cruelty and their viciousness. And that's the ultimate thing, because the ultimate revenge here is winning these elections. Then we control everything. And we can't get the Senate this time, maybe, maybe not, but we're going to get it ready for 2020 by getting the House and governorship. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? You know, it's October 24th, 2018. We have a series of bombs targeting Democrats and the media. All the targets of Donald Trump. What's your reaction? What do you think is going on here? If Donald Trump lives in a world where he gins up fear all the time, be it of Muslims or of a caravan or of the media, is this the future for our nation? More acts of violence? And also to put it in context for a second, folks, everyone take a breath here. This is a scary time. No doubt about it. We had bombs say the one at CNN could have easily went off and killed people. But you look at the 1960s, and there was political assassinations going on. You know, we lost MLK, JFK, and RFK within 5 years. There were civil rights activists killed. There were bombings in Birmingham, so many they called it Bombingham. The 16th Street Baptist Church was blown up and 4 young African-American girls were killed. Civil rights leaders were killed. We all know Mississippi Burning, the movie, that story there. Countless examples of that. We are not there as a nation. I mean, thankfully, but I fear we could be moving to that. And the problem, the reality is that we don't have a president that's a leader for his own base. And the GOP Congress, where are they? We have a series of bombings. Where are the Republican leaders in Congress? They should be having a unified, big press conference to stand together in the House and the Senate, say, we denounce this. This is absolutely wrong. But they won't, because they're more concerned about re-election in 13 days than taking a stand. I don't mean tweeting. Oh, Marco Rubio tweeted it's a bad thing. No, Have Mitch McConnell with the Republican leadership and Paul Ryan and the leaders of the Senate and the House stand shoulder to shoulder, have a press conference, say, this is wrong. This is not what America's about. We don't want support of people who did these bombs or think like that. They'll never do it. So just another reason why in 13 days we've got to get the House back. Because they are complicit. They are complicit, and it makes our nation less safe and less of a democracy. Let's take a break. We have a full hour. We moved the guest around so we can have an hour. I want to hear from you about this. This is really at a crossroads in this country on some level. If we see more bombs and more violence, I'm hoping we don't. Do you think we will? What should we be doing to try to damper down this? And I'll do it myself. I'll be more measured if that's going to help, because I don't want to see any violence. There's no place for that. It's not the United States of America. It cannot be. Let's take a break. 866-997-474. Give me a call. Be right back. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. You've heard Dean's thoughts. Now it's your turn. 866-99-SIRIUS. 866-997-4748. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show
on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here Wednesday, October 21st. So I want to hear from you. We have a full hour to take calls. I just want to hear your reactions. I promise not to talk much about what's going on. What do you foresee for the future? What should we be doing now? Is there a way we can play a role in healing some of America? And because I am worried, I have to be honest. And by the way, while no one was looking, while Trump was trying to distract everyone with like caravans, if you have an IRA or a 401k or stocks, today the stock market went down over 600 points today. Right now, in January, the Dow Jones was at over 26,000. What does it close at today, the Dow Jones? 24,500. All the gains of this year are gone, completely gone. No exaggeration, they're gone for the Dow Jones. S&P has a little bit. NASDAQ, worst day in years today. And I don't know if it's going to get better or worse economically. We'll get a GDP report on Friday for last quarter. I am not wishing this, but I think from experts are saying it could be down could be down 10%. It could be down 20% from from last quarter. We're going to see what happens. And Trump's going to blame the Democrats for all of this. And this is really due to, one, global changes, of course, economically, but also his tax plan, which has contributed to our deficit ridiculously and made our economy less attractive for investors. And so the stock market's not the deal. We'll see. I mean, tomorrow the market might go up 500 points, but it's been going down for weeks now, and it's not been getting the press. It's been little by little by little. And today it took a beaten 600 points. So let's take calls. Here's our friend Kerry from Chicago. Kerry, how are you?
Hey, thank you.
Sure.
I'm doing okay, as we all are.
I know.
Go ahead. And I voted today.
Oh, you did? Great.
Yeah. You know what's awesome?
Tell me.
And every state should be like this. There are polling places all over the place in Illinois. And so I was able to walk across the street and vote at my local library.
That's great, as opposed to in red states where they're closing down polling places, especially where Democrats tend to vote, which is just remarkable, isn't it?
It is. And that was my little act of defiance.
By the way, Kerry, the Republicans love to talk about voter fraud. I could be wrong, but I think we might see some this time from them. I think you're going to see some of them try to vote twice in elections. And I could be wrong, but I'm going to tell you, and then it'll be self-fulfilling. They'll go like, yeah, there was voter fraud. It's like, yeah, but you did it. But I would not be surprised if we see some voter fraud in tight districts or states and Republicans trying to vote more than once.
Yeah, I know. It's like you and I, we both, our minds race every day.
Yes.
It doesn't stop. And so it's really hard to enjoy life, at least a little bit. And then you wake up.
I know.
You wake up with just one more bad news thing after another. And, I keep on saying, I hope the Secret Service is all over the Carters, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter right now.
Oh, interesting. But Trump doesn't attack Jimmy Carter much. So that's why. I mean, don't forget, these attacks are these people are targeted because of Donald Trump targeting them. So he doesn't really go after Jimmy Carter much. Obviously, Maxine Waters and CNN and John Brennan at CNN, the former CIA director, George Soros, Obama. I'm looking at the screen right now. It literally looks like after a horrific terrorist attack that's coordinated around the country when you see all these places where it went. And again, it could end up being, folks, one person in their basement who's a loser who did this. Or it could be a whole terrorist cell that got together and is doing this. And this is part of a wave of terrorism we're going to see between now and Election Day. Like you would see in Afghanistan, where they have countless bombings as they get close to their Election Day to destabilize it and make people not go and vote because they're afraid. Because all you have to do is start bombing, finding a bomb in a polling place, and all of a sudden people go like, I'm not sure if I should go vote or not.
I know. It's so terrifying. And, just the amount of Hitler-esque and Mussolini parallels right now are frightening. And I think people like us that study history, we're consciously aware of this all the time, and
absolutely right. I mean, you look at a guy, if you look through history, where was a time where a guy called himself a nationalist, played on people's grievances, demonized a religious minority and immigrants, and said his culture was superior to everyone else's? You don't have to be a genius. And it's not just Hitler. There were other people like that too. I mean, Mussolini very much played on the grievances of people in Italy and came to power and became a fascist leader. You have others too that they play on the same things. And I don't know why people on the right don't wake up to the threat to America. And they think we're being hyperbolic. They think we're doing this. It's a partisan thing. If it was Mike Pence, we would be screaming about policy. But I don't think we'd be worried that he was trying to destroy our democracy the same way. I could be wrong, but I think we'd be fighting more on policy issues, and it would be much more reasoned debate on policy. And win or lose, we've been having that kind of discussion.
We would be fighting the hatred from the fundamentalist Christians, which is really what's driving a lot of the stuff. Because Trump doesn't believe in anything.
No.
Like, he just believes in fame and being loud, and all those things that are associated with it. The negative things that are associated with that. But, like, just the attacks on the LGBT community, especially my transgender brothers and sisters, and it's just so disgusting. There's only like 2 million trans people that have identified themselves in the entire country out of 330 or 40 million Americans.
And
it's so nuts.
And it's just a amount of cruel. Later, next coming up at the bottom of the next hour, I have Congressman Mark Pocan, who's the chair of the LGBT caucus in Congress, and we're going to talk about that very issue about Donald Trump's trying to redefine what transgender Americans are so that they can legally discriminate against them. That's what they really want to do, and it's to make their evangelical base happy. The idea of people who love Jesus so much, how could they be happy about demonizing and being cruel to someone? That's opposite of Jesus' teachings, completely opposite.
Absolutely. And I keep on screaming from the rooftops that fundamentalist Christians started this crusade in the 80s when a lot of us Gen Xers were in high school, and half of us Gen Xers fell under the sway, and now we're Ted Cruz's and Tom Cotton's and all the other people that are in their 40s and early 50s. And it's just disgusting. And, it all started with Ralph Reed.
Exactly.
And
Ralph
Reagan.
Reed. Yeah, I remember Ralph Reed, that weird look he had his eye. All right, Carrie, well, thanks. I'm glad you voted. And I know you're getting people out to vote. And we're going to try to have some of those candidates on. I think we have one tomorrow, in fact. But we're trying to get more on. So thank you, my friend, for... And I really appreciate it. People have been emailing me about candidates. And we've had many on because people have emailed and given us contact information. Because oddly, when you just email a communications director for a member, someone running for Congress, they don't know you or your show. They like, we don't know who this is. Maybe it's a setup. But when you get through a friend and they go, I know someone on the campaign, they always come on. And it's always been great. So it's been so helpful that people like yourself and others have given us a contact on the campaigns, and then they always respond. Although now in the last 2 weeks, some who would have come on have actually said, every night we are busy. We're at events and we're knocking on doors and we're not doing radio. And that's life. I understand that. That's a different choice.
Yeah.
But all right, Karen, nice chatting with you, my friend.
All right. Bye.
Take care. All right. So we take another call, right? We have time. Let's take another call here before we go to, here's Carmine in Montana. How are you, Carmine?
Oh, pretty good. You forgot Medgar Evers and Malcolm X back in '68 getting assassinated.
Oh, good point, my friend. You're right when you're talking about political violence. And although the one with Malcolm X was it seemed like it was an internal dispute with the Nation of Islam. But yes, it was still violence.
He was a peacemaker. I thought he was a peacemaker. They got rid of them all back then,
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is, I never seen Donald Trump man to man stand up and have a face fight with anybody. And I think the only people to do it would probably be to draft Jerry Brown and Joe Biden. They'll stand up to him.
So you're already thinking 2020. You're pivoting past the midterms already, Carmine.
I'm sorry, but this time I'm feeling so bad with this last gasp. But it's like the death rattle of the white supremacist movement, and they're going to pull out all stops. And man, I think we're having a hard time getting Congress. If we don't get Congress, something bad could happen in this country, and I don't want to see it happen. As I live up here in Montana, I know how many guns we got up here. This will be the Afghanistan of the United States. I'll tell you right now. But another thing is this voter suppression thing. If we do take to Congress, can we go ahead and make sure we pick up the Australian model where everybody has to vote 100% or they get fined? When also vote on the weekends. There's a lot of things we could change. As far as these guys just horning in on all of our power. That's both sides,
I think Democrats should be, Carmen, what you're getting at, I think, because the Voting Rights Act, folks, has been gutted by the Supreme Court in the Shelby County case. So it's still in the books, but it's gutted. I think Democrats should advocate a brand new voting rights law, a new one. Forget the old one, a new one. And that would take care of the issues that the Supreme Court had with the old one, which was just BS, but we're not going to get back into that now. And I think one of the things Democrats should run on, they're running on Medicare for all. I think they should run on voting for all. And sort of what you're saying, I'm not sure if obligating Americans to vote will work, but I think automatic registration should work. And it's state by state, but the federal government could give incentives to the state to have one uniform system. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to get civics back in school and U.S. history back in school. We've got to mandate 100% of the people vote, and if they don't vote, a small fine. At least they'll get them involved in politics by mandating them to vote. Then they'll start saying, "Oh, maybe we should start having civics and U.S. history again, and the things that matter to the country, because we're supposed to have an educated electorate."
Right.
And so
electorates, right. So, I agree with you, my friend.
That's in the Constitution. Now we don't have nothing of the sort anymore. So I think changing these laws like that would be the only thing to do. Where 100% of us have to vote. If we don't, we get fined. That would bring the kids in, everybody, and say, "I don't want to get fined. I better vote. I better find out what's going on in this country. And if I don't find out what's going on, I'll be illiterate." Or
it's such an interesting point, Carmine. I think it's an issue that after the midterms, I'd love to we'll discuss it, because we just lost Carmine. I didn't hang up on you. We lost you there. But 2 weeks from tonight, folks, we will be going over what happened in the midterms. And then 2 weeks from tonight and a few hours later, we'll be focused on 2020 and the Democratic candidates running for president. That's where we'll be in 2 weeks from now. I think a Democrat running for president on the idea of voting for all, I don't know about Carmine's view, and I know in certain nations that you can get fined or a penalty if you don't vote. I don't know if that'll go well with Americans, but I think making it easier for people to vote and having the federal government help that, because it's state by state. Elections are state by state. There's 50 elections on election day, and that's fine. But the federal government can give incentives the same way they do for highways, and the entire nation raised their speed limit to 60 and 65. I think it was from 55 to 60 at one point, and they did it with highway funding. You can do the federal government playing a role to incentivize good conduct so states have a uniformed voting system. We need one right now. People are losing their confidence. I don't want that to happen. Let's take a break. Come back. You're my guest. It's just you and me for the next 45 minutes right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show, 866-997-4748. Take a break. Come back. Take more calls. November 6, 2018 isn't just Election Day. It is Judgment Day for progressives and our vision of this country.
Don't go anywhere. This is